In 1963, a young Phil Knight opened the trunk of his beat-up Plymouth Valiant. Inside were a few dozen running shoes from Japan. He wasn't a businessman yet, just a runner with a crazy idea to change the game in athletic footwear. No brand, no office, no safety net, just belief. This was the fragile beginning of what we now know as Nike. Before there was Nike, there was a wild college paper. Phil titled it, "Can Japanese Sports Shoes Do to German Shoes What Japanese Cameras Did to German Cameras?" It wasn't homework, it was prophecy. He believed Japanese shoes could undercut Adidas and Puma if he dared to import them. That single paper would later become the seed money pitch for one of the biggest revolutions in sports history. Armed with nothing but that paper and blind faith, Phil boarded a plane to Japan. He had no company, no plan, just a dream. At Onitsuka Tiger's headquarters, he bluffed, said he represented Blue Ribbon Sports. There was no blue ribbon, he made it up on the spot. But they believed him. And that lie, it became the truth that started Nike's global path. Months later, a box from Japan arrived, Phil's first shipment. He stared at it, heart pounding. The shoes were real, the risk was real, now he had to sell them. But no office, no shop, only his parents' house. He stacked the boxes in his childhood room and prayed someone would buy. Nike's journey began in a bedroom, more fear than fame. Phil hit the road, sneakers packed tight in his car trunk. Track meets, high schools, parking lots, anywhere runners gathered, he was there. He spoke their language because he was one of them. No sales pitch, just passion. Each pair sold meant survival, not profit. That trunk wasn't just storage, it was Nike's first store, office, and battleground. Demand was growing, but so were the bills. Phil sold out of every shipment, yet had no cash to reinvest. The banks laughed, sneakers, not a real business. So he borrowed from friends, even maxed out credit cards. He wasn't chasing wealth, he was chasing belief. For years, Nike grew fast on the outside and bled dry on the inside. Phil's old coach, Bill Bowerman, wasn't just a mentor, he became his first partner. Bowerman didn't want money, he wanted better shoes. So he began experimenting, cutting, gluing, even baking rubber soles in his wife's waffle iron. Innovation wasn't corporate, it was chaos. And from that chaos came the first prototype that would define Nike's edge, lighter, faster, and designed by runners for runners. As Blue Ribbon Sports grew, so did tension. Onitsuka, their Japanese supplier, began courting other U.S. distributors behind Phil's back. Trust unraveled. Phil had built their sales in America, now they were cutting him out. He faced a brutal choice, fight for survival or start from zero again. This was no longer just about shoes, it was about identity, loyalty, and betrayal. Desperate to break free from Onitsuka, Phil knew he needed a new name and a new identity. He paid $35 to a design student for a logo, simple, fluid, fast. She called it the Swoosh. Phil didn't love it at first, but they were out of time. In that rush, a global icon was born, not from genius branding, but from urgency and grit. Phil wanted to call the new company Dimension 6, but his team hated it. Then in a dream, one employee saw a winged goddess, Nike, the Greek spirit of victory. It sounded bold, fast, and unforgettable. With seconds left before filing paperwork, they chose it. Nike was Phil's first choice, but sometimes greatness comes from letting go. The first Nike shoes hit American tracks, worn by hungry college runners. They weren't perfect, but they were lighter, faster, different. Word spread. Athletes felt it, coaches noticed. Suddenly, Nike wasn't just a name, it was a whisper on the wind, passed from runner to runner. It wasn't marketing, it was momentum. From the gravel of college lanes, Nike began its sprint into sports history. Success came fast, but so did conflict. Onitsuka sued Phil, claiming breach of contract. Phil countersued, it was a legal fistfight for the soul of his company. Every dollar he had went to court. Sleep was rare, fear constant. But he refused to fold. This wasn't just business, it was war. And Nike would not be born in peace. After months of legal warfare, the judge ruled in Phil's favor. Nike kept the name, Nike kept the rights. On paper, it was a victory. But Phil was broke, emotionally wrecked, and barely holding it together. Still, something had shifted. Nike was now his, fully and legally. And though the bank account was empty, the path was finally clear. Back in Oregon, Bowerman kept tinkering. One morning he poured rubber into his wife's waffle iron, by accident or genius, no one knows. The result, a sole with perfect traction and lightness. They called it the waffle trainer. It wasn't just a shoe, it was a breakthrough. Suddenly Nike wasn't competing, it was leading. And that sizzling sound in a kitchen, it echoed across the entire sneaker industry. Despite innovation, Nike was still drowning in debt. Every dollar earned went right back into making more shoes. The IRS knocked, the banks threatened. Phil even missed payroll more than once. He kept pushing, bluffing, borrowing, betting everything every time. Failure stalked every corner. But so did belief. Nike wasn't yet a giant, it was a gamble, stretched to its breaking point. Years later, Nike had survived, but not yet soared. Then came a bold, risky campaign, 3 words, just do it. It wasn't born in a boardroom. It came from a raw place, grit, urgency, rebellion. Those 3 words didn't just sell shoes. They sold courage. Nike stopped talking about products and started inspiring people. And just like that, the brand became a belief. Just do it hit the world like lightning. Sales exploded. Nike signed legends, Jordan, Bo, Serena. No longer the scrappy startup in a trunk. Nike became a movement, a mindset, a symbol of pushing past limits. Phil didn't just build a shoe company. He built belief into a brand. And behind every pair sold was a story of almost losing everything. Looking back, Phil said it wasn't about the money. It was about the fight, the fear, the faith to keep going when nothing made sense. Nike was never guaranteed. It was borrowed time and borrowed belief. He lost sleep, friends, and nearly lost it all. But he never quit. And maybe that's what just do it really means. Not winning, just refusing to stop. In 1980, Nike went public. Phil rang the opening bell and watched as his debt-ridden dream turned into a billion-dollar company. But behind the smiles were scars. He remembered sleepless nights, near bankruptcy, and selling shoes from a trunk. The IPO didn't erase the past, it validated it. Nike's victory wasn't overnight. It was earned inch by painful inch. Nike was born on the track. But it didn't stay there. It leapt onto basketball courts, tennis arenas, skate parks, anywhere movement lived. Each sport gave Nike new shape, new voice. It wasn't just performance, it was culture. Streetwear, music, protest. Nike wasn't following trends, it was becoming one. And in every corner of the world, that swoosh meant one thing, possibility. Nike didn't stay silent. When athletes knelt, when voices rose, Nike backed them. Not everyone agreed. Some burned their shoes, stock dipped. But Phil knew a brand with no spine is just fabric. Believe in something, the ad said, even if it means sacrificing everything. That wasn't just copy, it was risk. And again, Nike did what it always had, it just did it. From Oregon to Osaka, Lagos to London. The swoosh became more than a logo, it became a passport. Nike stores rose in every major city. Kids wore it not just to run, but to belong. Languages changed, but the message didn't. Victory, movement, grit. Phil never set out to rule the world. But his vision laced up, and ran farther than anyone imagined. In his memoir, Shoe Dog, Phil wrote not about glory, but about doubt. About sleepless nights, silent failures, and nearly giving up dozens of times. He didn't hide the pain. Because Nike wasn't built by a genius. It was built by a runner who just kept going. Behind every empire is a version that almost didn't make it. He wasn't a CEO. He was a shoe dog. Let everyone else call you crazy, just keep going. That's what Phil told himself again and again. When banks laughed, when lawsuits came, when shelves stayed full. He ran toward the doubt, not from it. Because belief doesn't shout, it endures. Nike's story isn't about shoes. It's about the ones who run with no finish line. That kind of crazy changes everything. Phil stepped back, but the swoosh kept sprinting. New minds, new voices, new athletes carried Nike further than he dreamed. From esports to equality, space-age materials to sustainability. Nike evolved but never forgot. The struggle, the sacrifice, it's still stitched into every pair. Because legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you build into others. And the next generation. They're not just wearing Nike. They're running with it. Nike didn't start in a skyscraper. It started with a trunk, a lie, a run. It was built from nothing, no money, no fame, just belief. Every logo, every ad, every shoe carries echoes of nights when it almost ended. And that's the real power behind Nike. Not perfection, but persistence. Because some giants don't rise. They run. The swoosh isn't just on shoes. It's in every person who dares to begin without a guarantee. Every late night, every rejection, every quiet moment you choose to keep going. That's where Nike lives. Not in factories, but in you. Phil Knight didn't win because he was the smartest. He won because he moved. So if you're wondering when to start, just do it. Every step forward costs something. Relationships strained, health ignored, doubt constantly knocking. Phil didn't glide to greatness, he crawled through it. And though Nike now stands tall, it was once just a fragile dream, nearly crushed by reality. What kept it alive? Not money, not luck. Just forward, always forward. That's the price of building something that lasts. What if Phil had quit when the banks laughed? What if he stopped when Onitsuka sued? What if the waffle trainer never made it out of that kitchen? No swoosh. No Jordan. No, just do it. One man's persistence rewrote sports style and mindset. So next time you're ready to give up, ask yourself, what might never exist if you stop now? Nike is not just a brand. It's a decision. To show up when you're tired. To speak up when it's risky. To start even if no one believes you. Phil Knight didn't set out to be a legend. He just refused to stop running. And every time you take a step in those shoes, you're carrying that same refusal. So don't wait. Lace up. Move it. You won't find Phil Knight on social media. No viral speeches, no headline chases. Just a man who built something lasting by moving in silence. His legacy isn't loud, it's worn. On feet that chase dreams. On chords, tracks, streets. In every almost gave up that turned into, I made it. Not every hero shouts. Some just keep running. Phil Knight's journey is done. Yours is just beginning. You don't need a perfect plan, just a first step. You don't need approval, just belief. Because what built Nike wasn't luck. It was motion. So whatever dream you're holding, don't shelf it. Don't doubt it. Lace up. Step out. And if you feel fear, good. It means you're close. Subscribe for more stories of those who dared anyway.